We know that being a professional baseball player is hard, but what really are the challenges that come with making it at the professional level? Tune into today's episode of Locked On Red Sox, where you can find all of that out and more.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and also current host of the Boston Balling podcast, and I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast platform for free. So if it's free, might as well tune in, right? So thank you for making the show your first listen of every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. FanDuel is great. I will be telling you all about it a little bit more later in the show, but I am so excited to announce on today's show that I have a guy who is very familiar with the Red Sox organization, has been playing for the Boston Red Sox organization for a couple of years now, and I'm just pleased to have him on. He's great with interacting with Red Sox fans on social media, so a lot of you probably are familiar with him. Christopher Troye, how are you doing today?
Gabby, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm so happy to have you on. It's always nice to see players who take the time to interact with people on social media because you don't really see that with everybody. So I've always appreciated your presence on Twitter and your ability to kind of really see what fans are talking about and interact with them.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think for me, right, like it's just about like I've always been active on Twitter, and by always, I mean probably since 2021, since I got drafted. But it's kind of funny now that I've had some good performances that now it's just kind of coming to the light. So happy to be here and happy to continue to build the momentum that I've already been building.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to learn a lot about you and your background. So just talk a little bit about how you got started in playing baseball. Like, when did you actually really start playing?
Yeah, I mean, my parents put me in everything as a kid. I started playing baseball and t-ball. So I don't know how old I was then, but maybe 4 years old or whenever whenever t-ball starts. But I've been playing baseball ever since. Played basketball in high school. Played chess as a kid. So did a lot of different things, and I came to realize that my passion was really with baseball, and I fell in love with the game.
Yeah, I don't know how to play chess. I've always wanted to learn how to play, but it just seems too complex for me. And I don't know if I'd have the patience to sit and learn how to play.
No, I don't play as much as I would like to anymore, to be honest. But when I was younger, I used to play competitively. Used to play in tournaments and things like that. So definitely still a part of who I am.
That's really cool. No, it's cool to have that diverse background too and be involved in a lot of different things when you're younger and you're still trying to figure out, where your passions are and what you're good at. Because as a kid, none of us really know, where our path is going to lead.
Definitely. Like my mom's side, right? Like she had three brothers, and they all played baseball growing up. My dad played baseball until maybe junior high, maybe early high school. So um, baseball definitely came from my mom's side of the family.
Yeah, no, that's good. It always usually comes from some sort of family background. So it's always interesting to know where that comes from for people. What professional team did you root for growing up?
Growing up, I was a Giants fan. I grew up in the Bay Area of California, Northern California, in the East Bay, Brentwood, California, born and raised. And I was a catcher at the time, so it was fun to. It was a good time to be a Giants fan. You had Buster
Yeah.
Posey winning MVP awards, and you had the Giants winning World Series every other year. So it was a good time. Good time to
Yeah,
grow up in
being
the
a
Bay Area.
Giants
Good
fan
time to be
during that time period must have been a lot of fun.
No, definitely.
Um, who were your favorite players growing up? Like, who did you most look up to and say that's who I want to be one day?
Buster Posey. I
Yeah.
think that's that's a pretty easy pick as somebody who's a catcher. Again, who's a Giants fan. I mean, the way that first of all, his performance, right? Like, honestly, during that 5-6 year span, one of the best players in the game, pretty consistently, and to do it at a premier position behind the dish is hard to come by. So he's definitely a special talent. But really liked Yogi Berra. Obviously, never got to see him play, but the Yogi-isms, we still throw those out there with my dad, and we went to Cooperstown when I was 12 years old, so got to see some of his stuff, which was really cool. But no, I mean, I just a baseball fan. I just love watching baseball. I love the game, love the history, and I mean, I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah, and it's awesome because it's so hard to really make it at the professional level. So when you finally get to that point where you realize I genuinely can do this, that must be such a cool feeling. Like, what point in your life was it for you when you realized I think I really could do this professionally?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if it's always been like paranoia or like the voice in the back of my head, like, right, like, so I'm a big numbers guy. I really like numbers, really like data, really like probability, statistics, those sorts of things. And so growing up, I knew that I was fighting an uphill battle. So I mean, I knew after my senior year of college that probably would get drafted. Didn't know where, so I went out to Katuitt for the second time in the Cape Cod League in 2021 before the draft, in hopes to get some extra eyes on me. And I got some eyes on me, but I ended up throwing like 1 1/3 over 2 appearances with like 7 walks and like 8 earned runs or something crazy. So definitely take the draft stock. But I mean, I prefer to bet on myself, and so I wouldn't have changed my decision to go out to Katuitt just because I know my performance that I had out there. For me, it was an opportunity to get more reps, get more experience, and to develop, which at the end of the day, I think that there is a big league version of myself, and it's just a number of days, it's a number of throws, it's a number of pitches standing between where I am right now and the big league version of myself.
Yeah, and obviously being in the position that you're in, there's so much pressure that comes with that because all eyes are on you during a game, and there's so many things that you can get blamed for when things don't go right, or you get credit for when things go well. How do you kind of handle that type of pressure being in that position?
I love it. I love it. Right, like for me, like right now, I would describe myself as a high leverage reliever. So I enjoy high leverage positions. I enjoy high leverage situations when bases are loaded with nobody out and they need to make a change. Like, I want to be that guy when they need a save and it's a 1-run ball game. It's a big game. Like, I want to be the guy on the mound. Right. I watched the World Series Game 5 last night, and to see Spores on the mound throwing 2 1/3. I think he had like 5 or 6 strikeouts with only one hit. But I thought that they were going to go to Leclerc, which is their closer.
I thought so too.
And they didn't, and they put Spores back out there. So, I'm watching that and I'm thinking, that could be me, and I want that to be me. I want to be the guy that makes that last out of the World Series, and I feel like that's an opportunity that you have to earn. I don't think that just gets handed to you. So it's that thought, it's that desire that really fuels my focus, my intention day in, day out when I'm at the field and I'm getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have that constant mindset of what can I do to continue to achieve bigger goals? Because I feel like when you are trying to make it to that level of seeing guys like Spores and Leclerc out there and what they do in those situations. I'm even looking back to the ALCS when Leclerc got out of a huge bases loaded jam against the Astros, and that was make or break, really. Like, that was the series right there, was that moment. And like, being able to picture yourself in that type of moment, you have to constantly be thinking of, what could I do next to help my chances of getting there? It's just a constant growth process.
Definitely. And I mean, I think that's going to be the same thing, right? Like, I think once I get to the big leagues, like, that doesn't mean that okay, I stopped working, right? I get to the big leagues and it's going to be, okay, what's next? Like, okay, now I want to be an all-star. Okay, well, now I want to earn a high leverage role in the bullpen, right? Because you're going to come up through the minor leagues and they're not going to just give you the save opportunity day one, right? It's going to be, especially when Red Sox got guys like Kenley that they're paying a lot of money to do the job, right? Like, it's not going to be easy to come in and just immediately get those high leverage situations. So it's always about taking advantage of the opportunity that you have, and you will get a bigger opportunity. Then you take advantage of that. Then you'll get a bigger opportunity. Then you'll take advantage of that. And even if you don't take advantage of it, and even if you fall short, even if you scuffle, it's going to happen, right? Like that. Like, to expect perfection of yourself is probably counterproductive, I would say. But to chase perfection, I think, is probably optimal. And then there's a saying, I forget who said it, but chase perfection in hopes of catching excellence. And that's really the kind of mindset that I've adapted. And I don't expect perfection, but I'm chasing it. And if that's the case, then I think that's going to give me consistent feedback on things of how I need to do or what I need to do in order to get better.
Yeah, that's a great mindset for anybody to have in life, really, no matter what your career path is and what you're doing.
100%.
That's always something that we as a society can just use moving forward. I think that's a great way to put it, too, because no matter what your passion is, you have to be able to put that type of effort in.
Right. And I mean, I've said this a few times, Gabby, but right, what it takes to be in the top 0.001% of the baseball profession is the same thing that it takes to be in the top 0.001% of a doctor, of a lawyer, of a plumber, of an electrician, of whatever profession you're in. To get to being the best of the best, the principles are the same, right? Like, and I think I read this book. It's called The Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. Excuse me. But she does a great job. She does a great job outlining the differences between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And I think that in order to become the top of the top, the best of the best, the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, you have to stay focused, and you have to be aware and take audit of where your attention is and reframe it when it's not conducive to the task that you're trying to accomplish, which is a really fancy way of saying that no matter how well you do, you could always do better.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter what level you make it to in any career, there's always room for growth still, no matter what. So it's about constantly keeping your head on a swivel and knowing what can I do to, grow even more from where I am now. So
Definitely.
it's definitely intriguing to hear you talk about, that part of it and having that mindset. And coming up, we're going to find out a little bit more about his journey with the Boston Red Sox organization, including what his favorite part of being in the Boston Red Sox organization is. So that's coming up next. But this is a fantastic time of the year for sports betting. I mean, the World Series is now over, so hopefully you were able to win a lot of money by betting on the World Series. I know that my fiance did. He just raked up all kinds of money doing different World Series related bets, thanks to players like Adolis Garcia or Corey Seager, or even from a pitching matchup wise, he was betting on how many runs the pitchers were going to give up. And he found a lot of success with that, but you can find other success with FanDuel by creating your own parlays for different sports like football, basketball, hockey, because those are all in season right now, and you can be creative and bounce around between different sports. And that's the cool thing about it. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. FanDuel likes to say that you win a lot of money, but you really actually do. I've seen it firsthand between friends and my fiance just creating creative bets to utilize. So, for example, I mean, even with basketball, last night's, I think he did, how Jason Tatum scores over 20 points, easily hit that in that game. And then also there was one about Luka, whether Luka would score over 20, and you can kind of mix and match based on what you feel confident in. So that's why FanDuel definitely has you covered. So just visit fanduel.com/lockedon. And also don't forget to download the Sirius XM app, because you can actually get the home broadcast of every Red Sox game so that you don't have to miss a single pitch. Because again, with adults being real responsibilities and everything that we have to do as adults, we can't always sit and watch the game for 3 hours on our couch, as much as I wish that I could do that. But if you have to make dinner or something like that and the game is on, you can still have your phone out and listen to the game, so you feel just as involved in what's going on. And in 2024, the Red Sox will hopefully give us a season that we can be excited about, so that you'll want to listen to those games that you can't watch live, as opposed to in 2023 when you might not have wanted to do that. So download that app today for some exciting action in 2024. Speaking of 2024, I am sitting here with a very talented Red Sox prospect in the organization. He's worked his way through and is trying to work his way up to that major league level, so that maybe in the next couple of years we see him up there playing games at Fenway Park. But Chris, my next question I had for you is, what did that process look like? So you find out you're getting drafted. What happens right after that? Is it a quick process and then they send you down to Florida or something? Or is it just like there's a little bit of a wait period involved?
Yeah, I mean, something that probably most people don't realize, but baseball is very much flying by the seat of your pants. At any given moment, you can be traded, released, called up, sent down. And there's just a number of options that's like, you don't know where you're going, if you're going, where you'll be until like 48 hours before, where they're like, hey, here's your flight, you're going to Arizona. And you say, okay, and you pack your things up and you go. So that's something that was a little bit of a surprise to me. And actually, I shouldn't say surprise. I feel like I didn't really have any expectations regarding travel or things like that with professional baseball, but it kind of makes sense, right? Like how every decision is made as optimal as it possibly can, and that requires as much information as possible. And every day that goes by just gives you more information. So it makes sense. So after I got drafted, I mean, I don't really remember what it was, but it was probably right around a week. I flew back from the Cape, back home to California, unpacked, repacked, and then flew out to Fort Myers. I can't remember exactly how many days, but I do remember that was the most amount of heads up I've gotten for any travel in professional baseball.
That's a whirlwind of events and emotions probably that take place too, because you get drafted and you're super excited about that, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, now logistically it's time to actually go and make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, and the Red Sox do a good job, right? They make it easy for us. They say, here's your flight. They ask us what airport we're flying out of. So they do a good job, I guess, making that process as simple as they can. But there's just not that much time to, I guess, like soak it in. And as soon as you get the call, as soon as you get drafted, you're just going. And I mean, yeah, I was excited I got drafted. Obviously, it's a dream come true. But being a 12th rounder, like, I don't know. I felt like I was. Obviously I was happy I got drafted, but I felt like I wanted more, right? Like I wanted to be a first rounder. I wanted to be the first overall pick. Like I didn't want to be a 12th rounder. So from that aspect, there was definitely a little bit of disappointment. But for me, it was just, okay, well, now it's time to get to work. And now the work just got harder. The hours just got longer. It just got more serious. So each level I go up, each time I get called up, from high school to college, from college to draft, from draft to low A to high A to double A, right? Like every step just makes it more difficult. And at no point can you stop to smell the roses, because the second you let up is the second that the next person behind you is going to come take your spot. So for me, it's about staying hungry. For me, it's about I'm not done until I'm done, and I'm not done until somebody tells me that I can't play this game anymore. And even in the big leagues, right? Like I said this before, but I'm not gonna get to the big leagues and think, oh yes, I finally made it. Like I'm gonna get to the big leagues and think, okay, well, how do I become a high leverage dude for the Boston Red Sox out of the bullpen? How do I become one of their guys? Okay, now I'm one of their guys. Okay, now how do I become their closer? Okay, now I'm their closer. Okay, how do I become an all-star? How do I become a World Series champion? How do I do this and do that? And it's always going to be this ever changing process, where at the end of the day, like when push comes to shove, if you just focus on making yourself better every single day, then all of those other things will just take care of themselves.
Do you feel like, there's an internal challenge with going from one level to the next? Like when you find out you're being promoted to the next level within the organization, is there a tough transition that comes with that, or does it feel kind of seamless to you?
Yeah, I mean, every transition is going to have a settling in period, right? Like every time you move locations, move cities, pack up your stuff, unpack, right? Like there's definitely going to be some settling in, but I'm learning that at the end of the day, like it's the same game, and it doesn't matter who's playing behind you, doesn't matter who you're playing. Like it's the same exact game that I've been playing my entire life. So my work has to stay the same. So it doesn't matter if I just flew in and I still have all my apartment in the clubhouse right now, like packed up, right? Like I still have to go out there. I still have to be focused with my catch play. I still have to be intentional with my mobility routine. I still have to give high effort in my conditioning, right? Like those things are constant, and that is the best bet that you have to perform at whatever level at whatever given time. And I'm learning that I don't really care where I'm at, what I'm doing. Like call my number when you need me, and I will be ready and I will perform.
Yeah, you need to have that mentality, or else you're just not going to make it at the level you want to make it at, because things move quickly, probably from a business side. So you have to be ready when it's your turn. And if you're not, then they'll just call on somebody else,
So I'm
So if you want to be that guy, you have to be ready at all times. And you talked about it a little bit before, because there are so many levels to making it in Major League Baseball. Like in other sports, sometimes, like football's so much different, because you could get drafted and then immediately make the roster, for that team. Whereas with baseball, there's so many levels you have to go through to prove yourself. So within that, there's probably a constant pressure of I have to perform at my best every single day to be able to make it to where I want to be. But if you do have a bad outing, because every pitcher is going to have a bad outing. Even the best of the best pitchers that I've watched play in Major League Baseball have outings that are bad. That just is part of the job and just part of what it is. So how do you refocus yourself when you do have an outing that is not as good?
It was just that day, right? Like, it doesn't matter what profession you're in, you're going to have bad days. And especially if you're trying to achieve something great, right? Especially if you're trying to become somebody who is the best of the best. So, those days are going to happen, and you have to treat those days just like any other day, which is you have to take away what you need to take away from it, make the adjustment in your process that you need to make based on the information you just received, attack your process, and then get ready for your next experiment.
Yeah, it's always tough, because especially for a pitcher who might have just been called up and then they have a bad outing when so many people are watching, because it's like, they're making their debut with the team at the major league level. And it's always tough if that first outing is a rough one, because then it paints a picture in people's heads like, oh, this guy's not good. He might not be a guy going forward that we can rely on. So it must be hard to have to think, okay, now I have to work extra hard to win over everybody involved with this organization to show that I can prove at the biggest level on the biggest stage.
Gabby, I'm going to push back on you a little bit here, right? I don't think we think about, or if we do think about it, they are afterthoughts about what people think about us. Like for us, we know that to get the best of ourselves is to not care about what people think and to focus on what we need to focus on and do what we need to do. And that's something that I think is a consistent theme across all of professional sports, across all of everybody who is in the small subsect of the best, is you can't be concerned with what people think about you. Like people are going to craft their own opinions and people are going to write their own stories and people are going to think whatever they want to think. But at the end of the day, they're not the ones on the mound when they're pitching, right? So for me, we're not going to work extra hard or work harder or whatever you want to call it. And I don't think work harder is probably the right term, but I don't think that we are going to adjust our process based on what other people think about us, right? Like I think that as long as we stick to the process that we know that we need to attack the deficiencies, our weaknesses, and to make our strengths better, then at the end of the day, like if you have a bad outing, it's just a bad outing. I mean, you look at my first 3 outings in Portland. After I got called up from Greenville, I think I went 18 1/3 in Greenville with 1 point something ERA with 18 punchies per 9. And then I go up to Portland and my first 3 outings are terrible. They're trash. And it would have been very, very easy for me to get down on myself and to let that spiral and compound. And I felt like I was feeling this pressure from myself to maybe I should do more. Maybe I'm not doing enough. And often that is not the case. Often the case is not that the guy who just had a bad outing is not doing enough. Probably 99% of the time, trust me, he's doing enough. Trust me, he's working hard enough. Trust me, he's doing what he needs to do. And especially in baseball, right? Recovering and resting is getting you better. And for me, that's something I've had to learn. I got to work at resting and recovering more than I actually have to work at working, because I've got a tendency to overthrow. I've got a tendency to throw too much. I've got a tendency to lift too much. I've got a tendency to overwork that it's actually detrimental to my performance on the mound. And so that's something, working on recovery, working on relaxing is something that I've had to work on.
Yeah, I feel like if you're so used to getting those reps every single day, it's more tempting to continue to do that every single day, and the rest is hard. I mean, I'm a very the type of person where I have to constantly be doing something all the time, and I have to remind myself to sit back. I get that trait from my mom. She's constantly moving and doing something, and everybody used to say to my mom, you need to take some time to chill and relax. And now I'm seeing why people are saying that to her, because I need to mentally recharge. And I just don't always leave enough time to do that, because I just put too much pressure on myself. If I'm relaxing, I'm not doing anything productive, and it makes me feel like I'm being lazy. But in reality, I've had so many productive things I've been doing that day that I just need to take a step back. And not everybody thinks to do that all the time.
Bingo. And especially in a physical contest, right? Letting your body recover and letting your body relax is something that most of us need to learn.
Yeah. How much of the off season are you really taking to rest and recover? Because obviously, you'll report back for spring training and all of that sooner than it feels like it might be. But now is obviously that time where people are in the off season kind of resting. How much of that for you is resting versus keeping your arm moving so that when you get to spring training, you're ready to go?
Yeah, this upcoming offseason is going to be a bit unique for me, and I'll tell you why. I still got a week left in the Arizona Fall League. So my season ended mid-September, and here I am early November still playing. So that's a month and a half right there. It's going to be 2 months by the time the Fall League's over of extra time that I've spent playing. So that means that my offseason has just shortened by that much. And then talking to the pitching development guys, the pitching staff, pitching coordinators with the Red Sox, from what it sounds like, I'm not going to shut down. I'm not going to stop throwing through the off season. So that is going to be something different. Like this is going to be the first time that I've ever thrown year round. And I'm gonna keep throwing until spring training, and then I'm gonna build up. Obviously, I'm gonna take it a little bit easier during the off season, but still gonna be throwing, and then building back up for spring training, and rolling straight into the next season. So this is a little bit of an experiment for me, and I think that I am excited and curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll be interested in seeing the aftermath of that and what it does for you when the season starts compared to what past off seasons have done for you. And if it works, then maybe it's something that you continue to do moving forward. So it'll be interesting to see the differences that it does make come season starting.
Definitely. And if I had a crystal ball, I would say they're probably positive.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So that'll be interesting. So coming up, I have to ask an important question here as Red Sox Nation, something that we all are wondering. So stay tuned because you won't want to miss the answer to that question. But don't forget that you can subscribe to Locked On Red Sox on any of your favorite podcast platforms for free. New episodes every day during the season, during the off season. I am here with whatever emotion the Red Sox give me. So if it's any case like 2023, there will be a lot of bad emotions that come through or some surprisingly good ones. And it really just depends on what the team is feeling. So I'm probably feeling the same thing as you are based on what we watched. So if you want to tune in to a show where the emotions are the same as yours, this is the show for you. Every day, new episodes. Also, don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Red Sox, as well as follow me on Twitter at Gabby10, and we can continue the discussion that way about all things Red Sox. And download the SiriusXM app where they can get you the home broadcast of every game so you don't have to miss a single pitch. So you can start your day with Locked On Red Sox and end your day with the broadcast of the game. So you have your fair share of Red Sox for the day. So be sure to do that as well. And also subscribe to other Locked On shows like Locked On MLB or Locked On MLB Prospects, where you can learn more about what's going on across the league as well. If you want to know how a trade impacts the Red Sox that they hopefully will be doing some of this offseason to make the most of it, you can tune into Locked On MLB, and they give you a really good perspective of how that works out for both teams. So be sure to subscribe to that show as well. Continue to follow the show, leave comments, share it with your friends, and I'll be here with you every day. New episodes of Locked On Red Sox. Speaking of new episodes, I have a great episode right now with a Red Sox prospect who has really worked hard to work his way up in the Red Sox organization, get himself to the level he wants to be at, which is still so many more things that he wants to accomplish throughout his career. Christopher Troye, I need to ask you, what is your favorite thing about being in the Red Sox organization? Like, what makes them such a good organization to play for?
I mean, first and foremost, they're one of the biggest market teams in the country. One of the most historic, if not probably the most historic. And I mean, as a baseball fan, like, that's just, what else could you ask for? A big market filled with great baseball history, and 4 World Series rings, and since 2000, like in my lifetime, they've won 4 rings, which I think is probably more than any other organization. So
it's been fun being a Red Sox fan, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to ask for, right? Like, that's the trifecta right there. They win in a great city with a great fan base, and they've got an incredible history.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I feel like being in a reputable franchise like the Red Sox is probably so rewarding to think about, potentially being on that type of stage when you get to the major league level, and just how passionate of a fan base Red Sox fans really are, and being able to pitch for them.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a dream come true.
How often do you get to interact with the players who are at the major league level? Like, when you're, in spring training or you're around those guys, How often are you really interacting with the guys who are currently at that level?
Not much. I wish it was more, but I understand that like they've got work to do too, and they probably can't field 1,000 questions from all 150 minor leaguers who want their job. So not as much as I'd like to, but I've been thankful and I've been blessed to play against, and be friends with people that are in the big leagues, whether with the Red Sox or not. Um, so I've got the opportunity to point my curiosity towards those kinds of connections, to get some inside look into what it's like to be a big leaguer.
Yeah, because for them, you look at them and you say, I want to be them one day. So
Yeah,
it's probably cool to be able to have the opportunity to have those conversations with them and see what advice they can offer when you're
definitely,
trying to maneuver your way up there.
definitely. Like the spring training, right? Like obviously couldn't really interact with Kenley, but Kenley was warming up on like our six pack. I don't know if you've ever been to the complex, but there's six mounds right next to field one, which is one of our backfields, and he was pitching in the backfield game. And so I remember we were in the weight room, and a couple of my teammates came in. They're like, "Yo, Kenley's warming up to go into the game," and I was like, "Oh, well, what game is he going into?" And they said it was a backfield game. So we all stopped our lift and we walked to the bullpen, watched him warm up, and then when he started walking to the field, we followed him to the field and watched his outing. So to see how he went about his business, to see how he handled himself in the bullpen pregame, to see how he handled himself in the game, which I mean, that's a game that any one of us could have been in. So to see how he went about his business, like you can learn a lot from just watching him, and that's in part big reason why I like to watch MLB games, especially the World Series, baseball playoffs, and even the Red Sox. Right? It's because you can learn so much just by watching them. And I feel like the normal fan probably doesn't see it from that perspective. Um, and that's a unique insight as a fan and a player that I have.
Yeah, you probably watch the game completely differently from how I'm watching the game and just taking away different things because you're really watching those pitching mechanisms and watching the way that guys like Kenley Jansen go about doing what they do. And he's a great one, obviously, with how accomplished he is in his career.
Yeah, well,
And just
130 career earnings, 130 million career earnings. I'll take that. That's a good career right there.
yeah, right. Isn't that crazy? Like he's just gonna go down as just one of the best to ever close baseball games. And it's kind of
Yeah,
cool to think about just what he's really accomplished over his career. So I feel like for somebody like you, it'd be cool to have a conversation with him because he's been there and done it, and he's probably experienced all the ups and downs that come with being a major league baseball player. So for you who's trying to be like him, he'd be a cool one to kind of watch and see what he's doing and learn from.
yeah. I mean, he's a converted catcher too, right? Like, so I'm a converted catcher, so there's some similarities there. But I know he's got one more year on his contract. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with re-signing or whatever it may be. But obviously, I want to get to the big leagues as fast as possible. But I feel like another reason why I'm kind of pushing for this next year is just I think it would be a once in a lifetime opportunity to share a bullpen with one of our generation's greatest relievers.
Yeah, that'd be cool to say to people too that you were you know there with him and sharing a bullpen with him and being able to just have interactions with him and learn more about how he got to where he is because he's
Definitely.
definitely one of the best closers that I've gotten to watch play, and that's pretty cool. And I'm glad that the Red Sox got to have him, even if it's short for a short period of time. But what piece of advice would you offer to kids who are striving to make it at the professional level in baseball?
Never quit. If you never quit, it becomes a matter of when, not if.
That's powerful. That really is. You can make it happen as long as you believe in yourself and you feel confident that you can do it, and everything else will come. Maximize your opportunities.
Yeah, I see people that don't make it every day, and it's because
Yeah.
they give up. They think, this isn't for me. I should probably go look for normal job. I want to get my life started. And for me, like I've got the utmost confidence in myself to become a big leaguer. Like I just like internally, intuitively, I know I'm going to be a big leaguer. And that's something that I felt for a very long time. And it's because one, I prepare like it on a daily basis. That gives me the confidence to say that. But then secondly, I feel like I know that I will never give in. And unless somebody takes my cleats off of me, and unless somebody takes the ball out of my hand and I lose that fight, like I'm never going to quit. And if I'm never going to quit, then I feel like the next logical answer is, okay, if I'm never going to quit and I'm getting better every single day, then that becomes a matter of when, how many reps, how many days, how many experiences will it take before I get there, and not a matter of if I will get there. I know I'm going to get there. I don't know when, though.
Yeah. Well, I'll be ready and rooting for you when you do get there. And I hope for you that it happens sooner rather than later. So certainly excited to keep following your journey. And hopefully when you do make it, you are still with my favorite team.
Let's go. I would love that. I'd love to play for the Red Sox. Honestly, I'd love to spend my career there. So
Yeah, no, it's a great organization if I'm being completely unbiased.
yeah, I mean, you could go look around baseball, and I think that it's pretty well renowned that the Boston Red Sox is definitely a top tier organization.
Absolutely. Well, this was an absolute pleasure having you on here with me. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure other people feel the same way too, and can, have learned a little bit more about you and can look forward to following you through your experience with the Red Sox.
Gabby, the pleasure was mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, as always, to continue to tune in to Locked On Red Sox. Keep the faith. Let's hope they have a great offseason and can put themselves back in contention in 2024 because life's better when the Red Sox are good. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you next time.